Welcome to the Real Estate Syndication Show. Whether you are a seasoned investor or building a new real estate business, this is the show for you. Whitney Sewell talks to top experts in the business. Our goal is to help you master real estate syndication. And now your host, Whitney Sewell.
This is your daily real estate syndication show. I'm your host, Whitney Sewell. Today our guest is Dan Schoenbaechler. Thanks for being on the show, Dan.
Thanks for having me, Whitney. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you on the show. I know you and I were both speaking at a conference a few months back, and it's great to catch up with you again, and an honor to have you on the show. But a little about Dan. He's a full-time realtor and real estate syndicator. Launched Schoen Capital and has been a general partner on 5 separate acquisitions totaling 892 units for $116.4 million within the first 12 months. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you.
He's on a mission to share his benefits of real estate investing with as many people as possible and to help grow their wealth and lower their taxes. That's what we're all wanting right there, isn't it, Dan? So, Dan, tell the listeners a little more about who you are, maybe where you're located, and let's jump into your superpower.
Sure. So, born and raised in northern New Jersey, still reside here. I lived in Hoboken, New Jersey for a while, about 9 years, which is right across the river from New York City. So got to enjoy all the perks of city life. And that's still where I focus a lot of my real estate brokerage business out of. I work for Keller Williams Realty out of Hoboken. And since moved to the suburbs, had a child, beautiful wife. So living that suburban life and enjoying it as well. And about 2.5 years ago, I met a mutual friend of ours, Jason Yarusi, who actually helped get me started in the syndication world. And all my superpowers kind of combined to realize this is the thing I was looking for and eventually found. And I'm just so excited to be involved and help more people than I was able to before.
Awesome. Yeah, we love Jason and Peely, so that's awesome. It's been great to have them on the show as well. But tell me about, obviously you met somebody, they shared with you about, syndication and tell me about like why that was, the path for you, like this, you said this is what you've been missing, I think, or, tell me about, how that came about and what that realization was.
Sure. I mean, I think I was raised pretty well by my parents, so credit to them first. I always had the goal to come from contribution, and I always wanted to help people out. So after a entry-level job out of college for a couple of years, I realized sales was something I wanted to get into, and a friend turned me on to financial advising, financial services. So I realized, wow, this is a great way to help people build their wealth. And as Zig Ziglar, I think, has said, if you help enough people get what they want, you'll eventually get what you want. So could lead to a productive life for myself as well. So did that for about a year. And I happened to be prospecting a gentleman on the golf course, because I also caddied for many years on the side, who was a commercial real estate broker. And at the end of the round, I said, it sounds like you need to diversify some of your retirement products. He said, it sounds like you need your real estate license. So this gentleman happened to be 30 years or so in the business. And over the course of that time, he had clients that offered him, hey, do you want to throw your commission in or, pitch in for a piece of the pie? So he had no more than 10 or 15% in just about 6 deals, commercial deals. And he said in a couple of years, he'll be passively cash flowing $400,000 a year. And I said, that's what I want to get into. So really, I got licensed in that to help more people make more money through investment property, but also with the real intent of owning it. And then again, full circle, the process of syndication ended up coming that route to show me the way. And all my networking from 14 years on the golf course for high net worth individuals, selling high price real estate in a strong market, Class A market, and just generally loving to meet people, knowing what they do for a living. The whole networking has brought me a database of people that I can help direct into good opportunities.
No, that's awesome. And yeah, I mean, that would be enough to turn most people around, right? In a couple of years, you have $400,000 passive income.
Yeah.
So that's very interesting. So, but when we were talking before, you said your superpower was networking, and you even mentioned just then how networking over those years have now has become very beneficial, and you almost probably didn't see that coming to some extent over those years, and how that was going to help. But go ahead.
I was going to say, I got my real estate license August 2008. And in September, 1 month later, Lehman Brothers went bankrupt and the whole world fell apart. And the $140 million multifamily deal I got brought in to work on crumbled. And a few months later, I moved back into my parents' house. So that was my jump into the business and the whole recession. I think I also mentioned, I was just hoping to have enough change to get a coffee or a bagel that day in my car. So it was a struggle, and I knew it wasn't where I was going to end up, but I knew that there was something to this. And it's just funny how directly tied in all that happened, because even in college, that's when my mom was in human resources and said, you want a good chance at a good career out of school, you need to strike up some internships, job experience. So every golf bag I got on, I asked the guy, so what do you do for a living? Just one of the first things I said every round, and it was hundreds of rounds this summer. And I got to know these people and their guests and whomever, and it turned into quite a network of people. And the funniest thing was a lot of people might have had a specialty job like accounting or insurance or attorney, but they made their true wealth in real estate on the side. So again, all these things just brought me here, and it's really been the past year and a half. It's been like I'm walking on a cloud, because I never thought that all that struggle and hustle over 10 years would bring me down this road.
Wow. So aren't you glad you didn't close on that deal, right? Or you did?
No, to this day, it was a portfolio deal. I think more than half the property is foreclosed.
Okay.
It was a nightmare thing, and just a typical tragic story of the recession. So, I didn't close any deal. In fact, I switched my license to a local brokerage in Hoboken. I said, at least people are buying or renting condos because they need to live somewhere. So the commissions aren't commercial real estate commissions, air quotes, but at least hopefully it can put some food on the table.
Yeah. So, I'd like for you to kind of help the listener, with that conversation that you're having with all those golfers at the time, right, that you're caddying for. But, so many of us are more introverted, and it's really hard to have that conversation. It's like it's really difficult. Now, it seems like potentially at that time you weren't looking for an investor. You were just curious,
Right.
But I feel like if we could come from that standpoint, a lot of times, and not when we're not looking for business,
Yep.
it would come across a lot differently. But your superpower is networking. I'd love for you to kind of help us with that a little bit.
Yeah. The biggest thing is, again, kind of that coming from contribution approach. When I get a deal that I get involved in, I'm bringing an opportunity to them. So it's not calling up and saying, hi, you have money, want to give it to me? It's really letting them know that you have a great opportunity if they're interested in looking into it. And, I don't get offended by anyone saying no, or even less than that, just ignoring me altogether. And that's fine. It's, everyone's got things going on in their life. This is not their main job. It's when they have time to look at it. I'm just putting it out there so that, because I know it's something that could bring some great value to their lives and help them. And, now's not the time. That's fine. Every deal I reach out to people on, I'm getting more and more traction, and other people coming out of the weeds. Hey, some people that never even responded to me saying, hey, I've been seeing the emails. Congratulations. Everything looks awesome. I get your updates, and that's wonderful what you're doing. I'm going to be getting back to you soon. I'm just, stockpiling a little more money or looking for this or that. So it's good that you find out you are making more impact than you think. And just also on the flip side, asking what people are looking for. So I know that a lot of my database, we'll just say, like my sphere of people, a lot of them are looking for tax reductions as well, tax deductions, as well as growing income. I'm in my late 30s, so a lot of people are in that family starting mode, and they are having to start to think about college, and even retirement's going to creep around the corner before you know it. So it's a prime time for people to get involved. And if they have more disposable income earlier in life, like maybe in their 20s with a good job, even better, based on the compound interest, the eighth wonder of the world, they can really blow that out of the water. So it's knowing what they want, as well as bringing opportunities they might not known they wanted.
I love how you talk about coming from contribution, and you even mentioned that very early on. And I feel like that's a mindset shift. And I was just having a conversation with somebody last night, and they were asking me about, that conversation the first time you're having that with investors, and they keep saying asking for money, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute, you're not asking for money. You are providing a great opportunity here. And how did you change your mindset around that, or maybe help the listener that's thinking that they're really asking for money, but they're really not?
It took a little while till I got some real strong formal sales training. So just as a salesperson, they call it having commission breath, where you just sound money hungry and it's, hey, buy, sell, sell, sell. And I definitely suffered from that at times in different industries. There were some other sales jobs in between. And I definitely, looking back, I'm like, oh, I'm so embarrassed at myself. I was awful. And so it's a part of learning that. And the knee-jerk reaction is, I have this amazing thing. You got to know this. And I want to shove it down their throat and say, you need this. But I do have to step back, just take a breath, and realize that this is their opportunity. So just putting that reminder in your head, it's because I get excited about this too. It's really become quite a passion. All things real estate have really become a passion for me. So it's hard for me number one, not to talk about real estate anytime you're around me. And number two, not want to scream it from the rooftops that this is one of the best things you've ever seen. So it's really just taking that second, and then eventually, like anything, with repetition and practice, you will just start to come naturally, where you're putting it out there and naturally in a conversation, working it in, and not just throwing it at people and hoping that it sticks.
Yeah. Well, Dan, what's been some of the best places you found a network to increase your network with, high net worth individuals?
Sure. And what's great, I'm very fortunate where I already work in real estate full time through a lot of residential, small commercial. So I do prospecting all the time. And one of the things that I really learned quickly was to be more purposeful in what I'm doing, in my activities. So again, networker. I barely cold call people anymore. And some of my brokers don't like to hear that. And don't tell everyone that's not the way to do it, because cold calling is still very effective to grow relationships and stuff. But what I tend to do is focus on more places of interest. So real estate meetups, real estate events, things where people are already having that mindset, or even just wealth creation. So maybe it's something not real estate per se, but it's a room full of people that for whatever reason might have disposable income, looking to make more money, etc. So I just look for a more purposeful approach and showing up. I do a lot of face-to-face. So some weeks I'm out 4 nights a week at meetups and gatherings just to meet more people, because it's a numbers game. The more people you get in front of, the more that you're going to convert or get involved in an opportunity.
So, so you meet somebody at one of those meetups for the first time, and they say, oh, yeah, great to meet you, Dan. What do you do? What's your, I feel like that's what most people say, right? Oh, nice to meet you, Whitney. What do you do?
Sure.
Dan, what do you tell them?
So here's a little of the sales psychology. So I've kind of learned, just say I'm involved in real estate, and I kind of let them guide where they might need me. So they might say, oh, I flip home. Me too. I flip homes. Oh, great. I'm a local broker. I can help you find or sell places. Or they're like, I'm looking to invest in commercial real estate. Oh, great. I work with a lot of sponsors on deals, and I do a lot of investor relations, capital raising, and everything else. So I a lot of times let the conversation steer itself, and then I'll jump in on that end and maybe throw on the other side. Oh yeah, and I do the other thing too. But I'll let them kind of guide it so they know that sounds like my number one focus, because both are pretty 50-50 right now. But I let them think, oh, Dan is a syndication guy, and I need to invest in real estate, so this is perfect. Or Dan is the broker. I'm looking to buy or sell locally, so they think of me first in that regard.
I like that. And so they say, they say, what do you do? And you say, I'm involved in real estate. And then depending on how they respond is how you know how to take the focus.
Right.
Wow.
So start broad and funnel it in.
So tell me about your follow-up process with somebody like that.
Sure. Collect a lot of business cards, and usually try to get back to them within 24 hours. Quick email is a good start. And then, especially if we left the conversation with something to talk about, whether it's I am interested in investing in future deals, great. Well, let's have that conversation and go over your criteria, cover if you're accredited or sophisticated, things of that nature. And other people, again, depending on their needs, if there's an immediate action I can take, like, oh, you were looking for a good commercial lender, call them up. Hey, here's the commercial lender that I said we like to use on deals. So you're someone you can talk to. So it's always good to have that warm lead, have an excuse to reach out, a touch point. But usually they'll go in the database after we cover. So again, if we're talking purely syndication, talking about put them in the database for email blasts going forward for updates on markets or deals at that point, because they'd be an established relationship, since I am involved in mostly 506B transactions. So we would create that pre-existing relationship and then throw them in for that stuff.
What kind of platform or CRM system do you use?
I am a little bit of a mess, actually, when it comes to this stuff. One superpower I have is knowing that I'm not the most organized person. And I have a part-time person I've been paying, and I'm in transition on a few things. So MailChimp's been great for the mass emails. Before, I was just literally blind copying 300 people and in my Gmail. But MailChimp has been good, and really just attending to a high-level Excel sheet. And it's been a little bit of a nightmare. So I'm getting back to CRM. In my real estate experience, I've used Follow Up Boss, eEdge, some other things. So I'm probably going to get more in like a Constant Contact or something like that for my syndication business day to day.
Okay. Dan, what's been the hardest part of this syndication journey for you?
Hardest part in the beginning was finding deals. So I met, as we mentioned, our mutual friend, Jason Yarusi in Peely. I met him just before he got into his first deal. He raised his first deal, which he already had everyone lined up. He didn't need any help. And he's like, we're looking to do more. So I was like, perfect. I know a lot of people. I could probably help on the capital raise and investor relations and some other activities. And it took 12 months and 60 offers until Jason got his second deal, which I don't know if you knew that. But it's also something I'd like to brag about, because it really goes to show the most overused term in this industry is being conservative. Jason is one of the biggest testaments of it. When he puts a deal in front of me and says, we have this under contract, I almost don't even have to look at it, but I do for all my investors that are listening today. It's just one of those things. I know he's just such a solid operator that it's a golden deal. So I was talking about a lot of things we were getting close on and talking to my sphere and get people warmed up and ready to invest. And it was a full year until something happened. And the funny part was that first deal, that finally came across, I got one person in. So I was like, wow, that was underwhelming. And I also realized I didn't treat my database correctly. I had one person who I said, oh, he'll probably write a check for the whole raise. This is nothing for him. And he said, I'm not interested in being passive, but if you can find me a deal like this, I'll do it to run. He wants to be active. He wants to be a general partner. I was like, wow, okay. That goes back on the drawing board then. And I realized I needed to have more in-depth people. While I knew a lot of people and thought they'd be interested in some of this stuff, I really had to hone in further with some of them. And now I have other things in the pipeline for those people too. So hardest part was finding more deals, but been very blessed and fortunate that the people I've been surrounding myself in the past few years have really been solid. I mean, even getting to hang out with people like you, Yeah. I'm just walking among the elite. So I know I have a long way to go, but a lot of other syndicators have come to me, and that's why I had to formalize Schoen Capital, because I knew it wasn't just Dan working with Jason anymore. I had a lot more opportunities coming my way, which I wanted to take advantage of and get people involved with.
Yeah, I find we learn a lot about our investor network, after we've, reached out about a deal or two. It tells us a lot. And we learn so much after those, going through that process a few times. But, Dan, how are you preparing, or are you prepared for another potential downturn?
So I've been looking into a lot of different asset classes as well outside of multifamily. However, what was the statistic? Out of all the agency loans during the recession, less than 1% of properties defaulted, some along that line. I've heard on a couple different podcasts. So knowing, and that's one of the reasons why multifamily has been my number one. It's such an incredible risk reward ratio. So I still feel very comfortable in knowing that we're stepping into value add opportunities. I would never buy some turnkey Class A property, which there's plenty of here in New Jersey, and I would just never feel comfortable. And I've had a lot of development deals offered to raise on, and it's too far down the pipeline. Most of my people want some immediate cash flow. So been looking online to and networking within the mobile home park and self-storage, because they're very recession proof, and currently actually getting involved in more of a business venture that has a real estate tie. We're buying property and starting hemp farms, actually, for CBD oil. So that's been a very interesting, and that market's still on the up and up. So it's looking very positive there, and kind of avoiding other industries that are very susceptible to the decline right now.
Wow. So Dan, what's a way you've recently improved your business that we could apply to ours?
Getting more organized, getting more help, leveraging.
So hiring somebody. So you hired somebody part-time, you said?
Yes. So I have this part-time. She helps a little of my brokerage business, a little of my syndication business. And I just know, the number one thing again was learning what I'm good at and what I'm bad at, and take all the bad stuff off my plate, because I'm just going to be my own worst enemy and not get it done. Certain paperwork, things like that. I'm too busy going after deals and talking to people, creating more opportunities, that I can't sit still long enough to do all the administrative stuff, which is very needed.
It's very needed.
Very needed. However, I can't focus long enough for that. So leverage it off.
So what's a way that you stand out in your relationship with your investors?
I think for the most part, I just make sure that I have a very strong relationship. Most of the people I talk to fairly regularly. I definitely know people that have 900, 1,100 people on their database, and they wouldn't recognize their face on the street. We've maybe talked once or twice, okay, here's what you want to get involved with. Okay. And they're on all the mailers and blasts and stuff like that, but they couldn't even pick them out of a crowd. So I like having a more in-depth relationship with people and trying to contact being in touch at least, twice a year, 4 times a year. Quarterly's the goal. And it just helps in gaining rapport, because that's very big. A lot of people, one of the first questions is, because I work with a lot of other sponsors in partnership. So like, how do you feel about this guy or this woman? So the fact that they take, sometimes that's the last question, and that's all it needs to make them pull the trigger to invest. And I love the fact that we have that kind of relationship, and that's what I want out of everybody that I work with. So
what's the number one thing that's contributed to your success?
I think consistency. I always want to keep meeting more people, talking to more people. And I think that, again, it brings more opportunity. Even this new venture I'm involved in, it was someone I met at a meetup group a few years ago. We got stayed in touch. We almost did some other projects together, and then brought me full circle to this whole new asset class. So it's being consistent. If you're going to go to a few meetups, go to them very regularly. I feel like I'm a little bit of a staple at all the ones I go to. So everyone shows up and like, oh, I was expecting Dan to be here. And it's good to establish yourself, and people start to turn to you like you might actually know stuff.
And tell us, Dan, how you like to give back.
So as I said, it wasn't that long ago that I was barely scraping by myself. So things have been very good. And what I've been trying to do is start, as I'm building up what I really want to get to really make a huge impact. I'm giving back more locally. So fortunately, my brokerage has a very, very big culture on giving back. I've helped serve many, many local food shelters, meals, and also giving back a lot of my time, whether it's on the brokerage side. I'll teach a lot of free classes in our market center, or I will, on the syndication side, I have so many phone calls with people where I'm kind of unofficially coaching them or giving tips and advice. And I love to do it because it took me a while to find some mentors, and that's so important to help you get ahead. So I made sure that was the first thing I started doing and was capable to do.
Dan, I'm grateful to have met you and to have, both of us speaking at that same conference. It was really good. That was also Jason's conference. I encourage listeners to look it up. But also just great to get to know you a little better, and I appreciate you just breaking down your networking process a little bit. And coming from contribution, I loved how you just mentioned that right off the bat, and I think that's helpful in changing our mindset. And because when we're going to an investor thinking we're asking for money, it just comes out, right? It comes out, when you have that mindset. So I'm grateful for that. And then, and two, you're laying out the places that you go to meet people, whether it's real estate meetups or events, wealth creation events, but also how when somebody asks, well, what do you do? And you say, I'm involved in real estate. I thought that's very tactful, and you kind of let them navigate that. And so anyway, grateful for your time and just how you've shared your process of networking, how you've met people and been successful in this business. Tell the listeners how they can get in touch with you and learn more about you.
Sure. Well, as I said, a little lacking on the administrative side. The website's still under construction. However, still have my email is Dan, D-A-N, at schoencap.com. That's SCHOENCAP.com, short for Schoen Capital. And my phone number is 973-919-7311.
Thank you for listening to the Real Estate Syndication Show, brought to you by LifeBridge Capital. LifeBridge Capital works with investors nationwide to invest in real estate, while also donating 50% of its profits to assist parents who are committing to adoption. LifeBridge Capital, making a difference, one investor and one child at a time. Connect online at www.lifebridgecapital.com for free material and videos to further your success.